one of the key principles is going to be this false grip. Okay, so we have to think about getting into our end position, i.e. above the ring, before we've even started. Okay, so has anyone heard of the term false grip? I understand maybe what it alludes to. Okay, so in order to get a false grip, what we're thinking about is taking our palm and rotating over the top. Okay, so rather than coming from underneath the ring, we want to be taking and rolling round. So if I was to do that here, so a lot of us have a dip, and a lot of us have a pull-up. So if I was starting above the rings, what I'm thinking about, nice and deep, underneath. So notice how now I'm in this false grip position. I'm basically hanging on the heel of my palm. Okay, so that then gives us the ability or capacity to go from underneath the ring over the top. If I just start underneath, i.e. just using the fingers, then I'm never, no matter how hard I pull, I'm never going to get above the top of the ring. Okay, so by using this false grip, so go from the top of the ring, rotate through. So initially it's going to feel odd. Okay, there's no denying that. So, but I'm applying the ring to the fat of the palm. I'm using what God gave us and using that. So from the top, rotate through. Now, when I'm in this position, initially, don't go full bore and start hanging full weight on that. We want to just experience this position. So potentially, we'll do it on lower rings and then just start to acclimatise ourselves. Then we're going to look to pull from this position. So whether it's a 45-degree pull or using 1 foot, we're going to think about pulling nice and high. Now initially, there's 3 stages to think about. The pull, so the pull up, the higher we make the pull, the less we have to spend in that transition. So the same when Tim was talking about handstands, when we do like the frog stand, the higher we get a hip, the less time we spend in the awkward bit in the middle. So what does that look like with the muscle up? So here, false grip, big pull. So the higher the pull, I'm already in the bottom of that dip position. Next question, coming through, driving up. Okay.
So essentially you've got to be able to get out of that deep dip and control the rings. You've got to be able to pull in that, what Owen said, that sort of awkward position of being in a false grip where the wrist is cocked at sort of 90 degrees because you want the hand on the ring, as he showed, where you're going to be at the end. You can't rotate your hand on the ring because the ring's going to move. So what we do is we put the hand on the ring and rotate the wrist around the hand. And that fat pad he was talking about going across is in here, rather than where you'd normally grab something in your fingers. Ignore my dodgy
messed up thinking. But initially it's just about getting comfortable in that position, okay? So don't worry about what's going to happen. So from position, from the pull to the transition into the dip, just think about pulling nice and high. The rings will do the rest. That's the nice thing about using the rings. We can basically just come through the center. Okay, we're not having to worry about a metal bar banging us in the head. We can use that to our advantage. So just think about initially, we'll use these rings that are low down, so 45 degrees, and moving into or between the rings. Okay. In fact, we'll show you on these. Might make a bit more sense.
So I can do, if you're comfortable, like you can do your pull up in that position, or I can do a row. So I grab the ring high, slide it down, cock the wrist like Owen said, and I can get used to rowing in this position where it's across the base of my palm. I can gradually make it harder by taking my feet further forward, so I become lower. Job is to make sure thumb touches the chest, because that transition where we go through into the dip, your thumb needs to be at your chest. Yeah. If we practice that with ring dips, so we've got the 2 elements. Pulling, and the pushing out of the dip. Higher you pull, the deeper you dip, the easier that middle section. Yeah. Your choice whether you want to do practice in the row position or ultimately can we do it in a pull-up position.
So opposed to the handstand where there's a real skill involved in this, this is just laying the foundations, the prerequisites. So if you get the pull up high enough and the dip deep enough, then you're going to be in a good position. Okay, no skill to it, but that's providing you've got the strength and the mobility through your shoulders. Okay, so be patient. That's it. Elbows nice and tight. So what you're actually going to go from like a like more neutral position. Yeah, that's it. That's precisely it.
And then just
So elbows to the side, and then think about pulling yourself to the rings. So doing like a chin up. So one thing, I'll just give you a quick. So keep the elbows tight.
Tight,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's it.
so that.
Oh. Good. Elbows a little bit more tight on this one. Because what you need to think about, good, better.
Yeah.
What you need to think about when you're doing a dip,
Yeah.
you're not going to be out here.
Yeah.
The elbows are going to be like slap bang tight to your body.
Right.
So we need to maximize the pull
Yeah.
to dip.
Right.
So what we can't afford is to lose energy or efficiency
Yeah.
going out wide.
Out wide,
So we're just
okay.
trying to make it as smooth as possible. I.e., like with the gymnastics, you want to go from A to B as smoothly, as cleanly as possible.
Okay.
But initially, obviously, there's lots to think about. Just get used to laying that, but
That's
keeping
it.
elbows nice and tight.
So,
To the rib cage. Best one yet. Good, really good. Let's have 2 more of those. Good, one more. Pull. Brilliant, really good. Okay, no, really good. So what you can actually do is make it harder for yourself by taking feet further away. Because obviously everything's leverage. So if you're here,
yeah.
pull. Same principle. Elbows tight, lay in the flat of the palm,
Okay.
big pull, slow down. Okay.
Okay.
So that's it, making it more difficult. Good. Big pull. Good. Yeah, excellent. 2. Let's have 2 more. Good. Last one. Super. Right, guys. So if you've got a sec, so some of you picked that up really, really quickly, which is nice, and you sort of getting to a stage now. Again, not to call anyone out, but you're finding this really easy. So pulling through and actually getting to here, and it's like, oh, is that a muscle up? Have I done a muscle up? Okay. So what we're thinking about doing, so you can really start to feel the instability of the rings. So we're going to look at that top position now. Okay. So keeping everything really nice and tight, and this is why we don't want to leak any sort of efficiency or that movement integrity as we come through. So as we come through, everything's got to stay nice and tight because it's very difficult to generate force out here, right? So if we do the opposite, so if we come from the top, now, thinking about locking that bum down, elbows nice and tight, tailbone underneath, okay? So that hollow body position, let's see what that feels like, okay? So initially, don't be surprised if your brain starts trying to do the maths. You're doing this, okay? But eventually over time, you'll learn, okay? You learn that position. So just think about keeping elbows nice and tight. If you need to bring the rings down a little bit more so you're closer to the ground or get a little step, just so you can feel that position, okay? Elbows nice and tight, over the top. And you can really start to feel the pressure coming through the bottom of that palm, okay? If that starts to feel good, and very quickly some of you will get this, start to think about coming into a deep dip, okay? Even if you haven't got the strength to come back out of that, elbows nice and tight, slowly come down into that dip position, okay? So if you start to feel any sort of discomfort through your pec, shoulders, etc., maybe roll it out or maybe just step away for the moment, okay? So don't feel like you need to force through something. Let pain be your guide, right? Especially
thumb to chest. Just look at that deep position. Even if my zone did, he just put his feet on the floor. Just watch that when he gets down, when he comes down to the bottom, he's getting comfortable at being. That needs to be comfortable. That needs to be happy place. Anyone seen Happy Gilmore? Okay? Because that's where you're going to try and get to. Like, let your brain have that. Don't like rush being in that position. Like that is your safe place.
100%.
Like, your pull needs to match that. So look at, just do it one more time. Look where his thumbs are in relation to the height of his chest. His pull's going to come to that same shape.
So
Yeah?
that's the position. So as you're coming down, theoretically now, you're strongly in that eccentric. Okay, into that dip. That's the transition that we're looking for. But don't rush to that unless you feel really comfortable. Okay, so initially, rings nice and tight. Even if you just keep one foot on the floor, okay, we can't just chop a leg off and lose weight. So how do we manage that weight? Elbows nice and tight. If that feels good, Nice deep dip. Okay, have a go. Some of you are struggling with getting high enough, okay? So we need to go from a position that we can happily generate force from, okay? So obviously you saw me coming from the full, so rings externally rotated to pull, okay? I need to be comfortable getting into that bottom position, okay? Now don't feel like you need to go from full dead hang. So a lot of us are more used to generating force like for a pull-up with a slightly bent arm. Okay, so notice how I've got potentially taking some of the weight off. Jacko, we've got some bands, so potentially if you're struggling with that pull, we need to create an environment that we can learn, but we may not have the strength just yet. Okay, so if you're struggling with that pull, either use a band or go with bent arms. Okay, so I've already got a slight bend in my arms, I'm not having to go from full straight arm. So bent arm, and I'm having to pull really high. So one of the cues I'll be giving out is think about putting your thumb into your armpit. Okay, or trying to here. Okay, so also the rings, some of you are also creating a gate, like creating a barrier. So when we're getting into this bottom position, pulling high and rotate the rings. Remember these can go in full rotation, okay, full oscillation. So use that capacity. So what we'll be doing now is really concentrating on trying to create this happy place, getting comfortable, pulling nice and high. Remember, the higher the pull and the deeper the dip, the less time we spend in that funky bit in the middle, that transition. Okay. So if we grab
So just do one. So just do that. Just pause one small at the top.
Yeah. Yep.
So like you pull and pause, like just that idea of the thumb to chest. He's always like starting to get through his transition. Even one stage, that's his fully into transition. Even one stage there, just thumb, can he hold there, look, elbows close to the side, thumb to chest. That's a happy place for him. He's holding it whilst I'm talking. And then for me, that would be annoying because I'm making a mistake. But he's happy, that's easy for him. It's not like he pulls up and can't stay there and falling back down. The same, think of our frog stand. It's not like, I'm struggling to stay in my frog stand. What's going to happen when you take one knee off? You're going to collapse down. If you can't hold and stay there, when you try to transition forward, you're going to start falling down. Whereas we've got to stay high. So that is going to be high and comfortable. You know what I mean? Like I'm strong there, and my deep dip, which I'm going to match, I'm going to be strong there. You can bring the rings up a little bit. Some that working on the rings. I can create a cradle for myself. So underneath my bum, you've got a big arse like me. It's beautiful. Go on your hamstring. Hand just goes on top, and as long as you don't let go of the ring, and I've clamped it underneath, I'm happy. I come down and cock the wrist just so to make sure I am still in false grip. Because I'm now close to the floor, I'm going to be in a little bit of an L-sit position. It's not a problem. I'm just getting used to pulling and pausing at the top. And when I pause at the top, thumb is touching the chest, and I'm constantly thinking about applying force down into the ring. I can do the same thing for my dips if I was struggling to get back up. Goes across, make a little cradle, jump up and put my knees in. At the top, kind of turn the rings out a little bit. But then when I drop it into the bottom, I get comfortable. That bottom position of the band's going to help me just get out a little bit more smoothly. Yeah, for those that need a little bit of additional help going through on that.
So you still want to be working hard. You don't want the band doing all the work, nor do you want to be firing up and through the bands and headbutting the ceiling. Okay, you want to be in a position where you can do 2 or 3, but it's not doing all the work for you. Okay, just learning that pattern without actually absolutely blasting yourself, knackering yourselves out. Okay, have a go. That's it. Big pull. So just think about really pulling nice and high.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you were really close, but you see how the rings didn't move with you, so they almost sat in front of you.
Yeah.
We need them to work so that you can then tuck them under your armpit. Have another go. Just think about pulling really nice and high. Pull, 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 pull. Thumbs touching chest. Good. So for you, you'll connect now when we go from the top down, because you'll be able to connect that dip into that rotation. Yeah. Don't knock yourself out. There's plenty of time. Go on, one more. So think about elbows nice and tight. And then you're going to basically trace that pec from outside to in. Not bad, not bad. Just lost it a little bit through the right, but that's the challenge for the scapular, to stay on.
Yeah.
Because as soon as that wants to wander, it will lose it. So it's constantly, you're not trying to lose any height, but you're moving your weight from in front to behind. That's all that's happening.
When you did that negative in the first demo, I never thought about going through it in reverse. Control.
Yeah. It's just, again, you're trying to facilitate that learning.
Yeah, definitely.
If you haven't got the strength, I reckon Owen will blast up this. Look at this. Nice.
It's like a press up to him.
Yeah, so like external rotation, so you'll feel that like a real stretch coming through your forearm. That was nice though. So for you, it actually makes more sense to add a bit more load, because when you were doing it on there, you were like just basically coming straight through. Like, I can't quite feel what's.
A little bit higher and then
Yeah.
make it a bit easier.
So, but 100%. So your pull is really good. So really lie on that to get you nice and high, so you don't have to spend long in that middle bit. But that was exactly as you did, mate.
I wanted to try and get to the stage where you have a point out. Kind of.
Mate, that's great. Good. And then same on the way down. Think about going from the outside of the pec, trace it to the end. For reps, keep them tight. Good. As you start to fatigue, it's just starting to wander a little bit. Good. That's it. Step away.
Being low down so that the band can go under his bum means we're going to be in a bit of an L-sit position. That L-sit position isn't a bad thing, because when the feet go down, it helps me rock forward in between the rings. So he's going to go through, he's sat on the band, making sure he's got in his false grip. You can use your feet into the floor to just let yourself adjust. Then his job is thumb to chest, don't mess about aggressively in between the rings. Because the first one we did, you pause, and then went, and tried to get around it. It's like, use the pull. So you pull through.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's the lesson about you're talking about.
Yeah. So links the two together. So just, put your feet down, adjust your false grip. This time, I want you to pull, go through, and find that happy place, the bottom of the deep dip. Don't rush to get out the deep dip. Yeah.
Good.
And then get out. Good. Why? Because that's the most difficult bit. So like his brain's going like, okay, it's alright now, is it? And you're like, yeah, it's fine. And then it's a case of getting rid of the red band. Red band doesn't help much. It's just a little nudge through it. Yeah. So a few of you that are using on the high ring, like just come down, jump onto some low rings, let yourself do the full thing, like Bob. You look like you're so close. I'm like feeling one today. Yeah.
I just want to make one point, guys, so it kind of just links it all together. If I was just giving Ellie some, Ellie, just jump back on that a bit. So when you came into the transition, anybody see what's happening up in here, which makes it look like it's not as happy as it could be? Elbows are finishing out somewhere here. Just put your hands down. I'm going to use an example. Ellie works at computers. That means Ellie gets tight in here. So part of my programming cueing thing would be some more range of movement here, bring the shoulders back. So just jump on the floor. You know what I'm using as an example here. My case of this. Sit on the floor and do that seated shoulder extension that we did before. Yeah. Hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we would it's not everyone's going to get fingers together, but you can see straight away. The point I made yesterday about the movement. Do what's hard. As soon as I said do that seated extension, he's like, oh yeah. Okay. If I pick something good, he'd be like, oh yeah, showing off time. So that position there is going to help those shoulders come back. It's going to help the chest posture. We're going to look at some horizontal pulling stuff tomorrow. So when he comes through that transition, he's not here, which is not great. Front of the shoulders right the head of the shoulders right in the front of the socket. He's here. So he comes through, and the rings just go bang, like Owen did, and it stays tight. As soon as we hit some restrictions, it's difficult for us to get through the rings. So he's probably strong enough to do it, but he might not have the range of movement. But what a lot of people are just go and bully strength. And actually just go and roll your shoulders out, stretch them out, you might just get it. Because it's a movement issue, not a strength issue. beautiful thing about calisthenics. You can't hide from the whole system.
The motivation that you want to do a
Thanks, mate.
muscle up maybe the motivation you need to actually sort out your junky shoulders, rather than
Yeah, we were
just
just
someone
talking
saying
about that.
you spend too much time sitting at a desk. You need to work on your shoulder posture, and you're like, boring. But you go do a muscle up. Yeah, okay, I'll do it for a muscle up, no problem. If you like me.